Welcome to another edition of Dan Frequently Asked Questions. In this edition, we'll be discussing stability of blood glucose after a diagnosis of diabetes and diving. Keep watching. We got a question from a diver, and the question was, if after they had been diagnosed as having diabetes and then consistently on diet-only management, maintaining an acceptable long-term glucose stability level, which is done using HbA1c, which is essentially sugar attaching to the hemoglobin molecule as an indicator of a 3-month average of blood glucose levels. If that has returned to normal, what would the guidelines be for the individual to continue diving? Well, I want to separate three aspects here. The one is whether or not you're dealing with an insulin requiring diabetes, which is not the case here, it would seem. Whether you are dealing with a diet and or medication controlled type of diabetes as a second consideration. And thirdly, whether there is an effect on so-called target organs, in other words, the eyes, the heart, the kidneys, that might be affected as a result of long-term implications of diabetes on a person's health. Now, each of these have different responses, and there are general guidelines on diabetes and diving. So from the diabetes point of view, if it is not insulin-dependent diabetes, then very, very rigorous glycemic control is usually not the main issue when returning to diving, because it's unlikely from tablets alone to get a significant drop in blood glucose. There are some hyperglycemic medications that can lower blood glucose significantly, but usually that's not a problem and can be managed easily by planning meals accordingly. Insulin requiring diabetes, that requires very, very careful monitoring of glucose prior to diving and immediately after diving, with a number of implications on the type of diving you opt to do. And there are good references from Divers Alert Network and the Undersea and Hyperbaric Medical Society that spell out those recommendations. If, and I'm taking that as the ideal situation here, you're dealing with an individual who's been diagnosed with diabetes, has made radical lifestyle changes, and now with exercise and diet and a variety of other lifestyle decisions has been able to now become diet controlled or with minimal tablets or medication support for maintaining normal glucose levels. For them, if they are able to show that they don't have cardiovascular risk factors, which typically would require a stress ECG, and they don't have impairment of lung and other organs as a result of long-term diabetes, they typically would be acceptable to return to diving. However, it is important, if you are suffering from any condition, including diabetes, to make sure that your buddy who is diving with you is aware of it, is willing to accept the risk and able to do so, and will also be able to assist you if you were to develop complications related to your diabetes. So that's a big question. I provided a fairly loose answer trying to touch on the different aspects, but get good advice. And clearly, going to a diving physician is always the key response to any question. But we wanted to give you some of the thought processes we would go through in deciding on diving fitness. And I hope we've been able to do so. Until next time then, safe diving.